There we go. And what you'll actually get quiet, you're going to hear a lot of hiss. Oh, well, it looks like maybe this is too cheap of a compression tester. Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared.
And I'm Tavarish.
And this is Wrench Every Day. Sitting right here is our 1990 Nissan 300 ZX.
Why are you saying it weird like that?
I gotta appease our international viewers.
Yeah, but like...
They always say we're wrong, so...
We live in America. This is a ZX. This is a 300 ZX, and his name is Earl Leaker.
Earl Leaker. Although we're leaking less now, because I did successfully drain the oil.
Well, no, it drained itself.
Well, self-lubricated the floor, and then I finished draining it, so
right.
we're good. Okay. No more oil, but it'll still dribble some.
Okay, so what are we doing today?
Today, we're going to show you how to save a little bit of money by doing some preventative maintenance you should always do when putting these engines in. We're going to do a little bit more mock-up and get an idea just how ridiculous this engine's going to look.
I'm really excited.
So although it may not always look it, this car is not a very expensive car. These builds do get very, very expensive. Engines, turbo manifolds, raw materials. I actually do commute down from Georgia to
every day.
Yeah,
every day. It's a 6-hour commute, and
both,
Jared,
uphill both ways in the snow, 12 hours a day.
Glass. Okay.
So I get to sleep about 5 minutes every night with the wife, and then I'm right back down. So I come down 2 weeks at a time. It gets very expensive. And we're really excited to have great partners to kind of help support us as we're doing these things and trying to give you great content.
So this wouldn't be possible without those sponsors or partners, because they are just as much a part of this build as we are. And we have been using this partner for quite a long time. You'll know this Cove commuter. We actually use this every single day.
Oh yeah. When we're playing our time lapses, that's playing in the background.
So Cove actually have a new product, and this is their noise canceling Bluetooth headphones, and they are pretty cool. So these have Bluetooth 4.1, and it has really good audio quality. And not only that, these have 12 hours of use. You can listen to 12 hours of music and 200 hours of standby time. And not only that, they are very comfortable on your ears. Let me put them on, because my huge head fits them just fine, and now I can't hear anything. So, are you saying anything? Jared's just moving his mouth. I can't hear anything. So one thing that I usually see a lot in these over-the-ear headphones is that sound bleeds through them when you have them on your ears and you have the music turned up, but these actually don't do that very much. So I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration. We're going to put on some music that should be copyright free. Please don't demonetize us, YouTube. And you can barely hear, I'm going to put it right up to the camera. You can barely hear anything, and then when you open them up. So, okay, that's pretty loud. You can get these even cheaper with our discount code WRENCH68. You can get almost 70% off on these things. They're really worth it. So go to coveaudio.com/wrench68. It's in the video description below, and it helps us out. It helps us do builds like this. So it's a win-win for everybody. Go check it out right now.
All right, so you're driving down the road. Mm-hmm. You let off the gas, and you see
let off the gassel?
The gas. The gas. The gassel.
Let off the gassel.
The gas pedal. Okay. It's the gassel.
Right. Okay.
Abbreviate.
Gotcha.
No one has time for gas pedal.
Okay. All right.
So, and you see a bunch of blue smoke coming out of your tailpipe.
Right.
That's normal for your cars, but
it's normal. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, all is well with the world. But for any other person, that would be a problem.
Right.
Correct?
And usually, what that means. Oh, okay. I thought I hit a button. Usually what that means, if you have a turbocharged car, it could be your turbocharger, but most likely it's your valve stem seals. They're a small seal, we can show you in just a little bit, that seal oil from getting into the combustion chamber.
And usually anytime you have to take off valve covers, that's very, very expensive if you take it to a dealer or even an indie shop, because that is technically internal engine work. So that
Yeah,
usually comes with a 3 or 4 digit repair bill.
Yeah, it gets very expensive. On simple cars, it could be $900. On complex cars, you're $2,000 sometimes.
No, more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at like an Audi or a Volkswagen,
Yeah.
you're looking at $10,000. But
So on a 2J, it varies depending on who's going to do it for you. $1,200 to $1,600 is what you're going to pay. And we're going to go through basic hand tools, I think an $80 special tool, and less than $100 in parts, and you're going to save all that money. It's going to be a little different for us since obviously it's now living in the wrong chassis. So
when you say wrong, do you mean absolutely right? Because this seems right to me.
Yeah, that is definitely the right thing for this car. Not all 300s, but for Earl.
Yeah.
So we've got to do a couple things to get ready to make it serviceable. We discovered as we were fitting the engine, we want to change a couple things to make life easier.
Right.
And then we'll go ahead and set up, do the teardown, kind of talk about it, and show you how easy it is with some time, patience, and a few tools to save a lot of money. And on a 2J, I would say an average wrencher can do this in one day.
So one thing that we're kind of stressing here is that you can do this inside the car. Now, if any of you have watched the Supra build on my Tavarish channel, you'll see that Jared actually already did this on a 2J in my Supra, but he did this off the car. The cylinder head was off the engine, and it was a lot easier, but there is an easy and approachable way to do this on the car, and that's what we're gonna do right now, so let's get dirty.
Yeah, okay, here, let's remove this.
Don't break the 2J.
Okay, take that off.
It's very delicate.
And then we're gonna remove the valve cover. There we go. We had our off-screen chefs, also known as us in the last episode.
Oh, I can't, my side is a little stuck.
There you go. Well, we already removed those parts, so.
Right.
Well, here, let's.
Hey, did we figure out what we did with the bolts? Cause where are the bolts?
They're in a box somewhere.
Good.
And then we've only rearranged your shop for the other channel, and
yeah.
I mean, it's a lot nicer in here now.
It is, but I don't know where the bolts are.
We'll find them.
Okay.
So we'll have to pull the camshaft. You have to pull your timing belt. Initially, we were going to go ahead and do it just on the upper section, showing you the way you can do it without pulling the full timing set down. But I'm going to go ahead and just pull the full set so you can see what it's like if you need to do a water pump. We have a new timing dress, but we'll take it all the way down. We'll pop the cams out. One thing you have to be careful when you're doing this on the car is you're actually going to be taking the valve springs off, and that's what holds the valve in the cylinder head.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to do it on the car, if the thing that needs to be held in place is removed, you need to do something to make sure it stays in place and doesn't fall in the cylinder. Otherwise, you're pulling the cylinder head to fix it.
So I think what we could do is we'll just start taking stuff off, and then as we go, we'll explain every little piece of it, because right now it does look a little daunting, especially if you're not familiar with how an engine works.
Right.
So I'm already dirty, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you're wearing gloves. Why are you wearing gloves?
Because I plan ahead.
You know people are gonna rip on you in the comments for wearing gloves.
I get yelled at if we wear them, if we don't wear them, if I forgot to shave.
Yeah.
You just get yelled at all the time.
I know.
Let's walk this to the parts washer. Open the cabinet. Oh. Okay. And that goes in there. Like that. And then you close that.
I mean, should we be...
Well, we can take this.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, close it. Now, if you don't have one of these, your parents' dishwasher is a suitable substitute, right?
It is not. Do not do that. You will ruin your parents' dishwasher. This parts washer is really cool, but this is just a... Let's get back, because this thing is loud.
It is loud. So that's... Not everyone's going to have one. You can purple power, brush, pressure washer, or just leave them dirty. It's just... We've got a new toy, and we like to use it, so... Yeah,
honestly, sometimes the elbow grease method is a little bit better. So... You know, that has some paint on it, that has, I don't know, I think it's bed liner or something that they put on it. So we're going to see if that cleans it up a little bit. I wager we're still going to have to do something to it, but we got to get to the engine.
Yeah, first things first, we're going to actually drill out these spout welds, remove this one piece because we're going to rebuild it later so we can actually gain access, because as you can see, it's blocked a little bit. But
yeah, especially when radiators and intercoolers and stuff are going to go in here. So, all right, let's do the thing.
Let's get wrenching. Ah! All right, so we got the panel drilled out. This is Freddy's side. It's a little messy. I think I did a little cleaner. Again, we don't plan to use the factory cross piece, so we're getting it out of the way, and that opens up servicing our engine. Specific 2JZ things to look out for, and really any engine that you're going to attempt to repair like this, is step one, you need to set the engine to top dead center, or you'll set it to the non-interference timing if your vehicle has that setting. So on the 2J, we have our mark here, and then there's the 0 on the timing cover, and you can also double check your camshafts. They have these small marks in the gear, and then there's the small raised impression here. So that tells us our engine's at what's called top dead center. That's number one is on it, cylinder number one is on its compression stroke. Both the valves are closed and it's making compression and is about to combust. So our next step in prepping this motor, pull the serpentine belt tensioner, the water pump pulley so we can get access to this cover. We already have the crank pulley loose as we needed to fit the engine in, so we can just, well, it's a little tight now. But we'll get that pulled out. We got to clear the lower cradle there. We'll get that taken off real quick and we'll pick her back up. There we go. Pull this cover off. And there's the cylinder head, the camshafts. So if you've ever been told that you have a leaking cam seal on your engine, that's what this seal is. You have your camshaft in an overhead valve car, sits at the very top of the engine, and you have engine oil that lives inside this region, lubricating things, and you don't want that oil getting out. On these motors, this removable cap actually needs to have some silicone sealed underneath it too. Sometimes you'll have someone replace a seal, not really redo the silicone, and you end up with a leak again. Initially I thought these were dry, but obviously now that we're in here, they are kind of leaking. So we've got new ones, they'll go in. We've got all of our cam caps off, so these cams are ready to come out. You do want to be careful with them. You don't want to drop them, bang them up. It's a good time to kind of take a look at your bearing surfaces. That's the part with the hole. Make sure they're not too scored up or showing any heavy signs of damage. So now we're able to actually see our lifter shims. So we'll first take these out with a magnet, set them in order. If you get them all out of order, you're going to have to re-shim and re-measure your cylinder head, because these are specific to each cam lobe, because you need a certain air gap between that lobe and your cam here. So we'll take our magnet, pick that up, set it carefully there. Come on, magnet, there we go. And we get to do this 24 times. It's really exciting. All right, we're gonna go over real quick a tool you'll be able to set up that you can buy for a lot of money, or buy an inexpensive compression tester, take a couple seconds and turn it into what you need. So first things first, the very expensive tool you're going to need, cheap compression tester feed hose. The next part you'll need is an air compressor, because we'll be connecting here and using it to actually apply air pressure in that cylinder, and that air pressure is going to act against that valve and keep it closed when we take this valve spring off of it. But the first thing you need to know is, if you just start off right away doing it, you're not going to actually apply air pressure. This has a Schrader valve, a one-way valve, to keep air from escaping. So we need to take that out real quick. There, one-handed. I had to turn the camera off. Definitely did not use both hands for that. When we apply air, that's going to go straight through. If you only have one compression tester and you might use yours again, don't lose this. So we'll set that aside and take this, put it in the spark plug hole, get it nice and tight, just like you're going to do a compression test. It's the exact process here. There we go. And what you'll actually get quiet, you're going to hear a lot of hiss. Oh, well, it looks like maybe this is too cheap of a compression tester. Or the O-ring just didn't seal. Let's hope that was it. Try it again. But you're going to hear some hissing. That's what's called blow-by. There's always going to be some air pressure getting around the piston rings. So we'll come over here to our seals. Some of them are definitely trash. These are the generic ones that came in our seal kit, the cheap gasket kit that we ordered. And the problem is they have 24 of the same seal. The 2JZ actually uses two different types of seals for the intake and the exhaust. The intake are these gold seals. They're slightly gold or brown in color. The exhaust are silver. So what these seals actually do is your valves have the large bellows or flanged end that seals in the head. Then it has the shaft that goes through the valve guide. This is what keeps the oil from running down around that stem, getting into the combustion chambers or into your exhaust stream, creating that blue smoke, carbon deposits, fouling your spark plugs, creating a lower octane for your fuel. Very bad for performance, bad for cars that we want to sit on the rev limiter, spin a bunch of tires. These eventually, the little bit of rubber gets hard, and as it gets hard, it no longer can conform to that valve moving up and down inside it. Same reason why a cam seal or crank seal will eventually go bad. They're just rubber designed to bend and conform as things are spinning, and eventually it gets hard. Just think of a rubber gasket for a window. Over time it gets hard and crunchy, no longer keeps wind and water out, so you have to replace it. Same thing happens in an engine. Now that we have the air holding our valves up, we're safe to pull the valve springs. There's a couple different ways of doing it. One tool that's worth doing or buying, especially if you do a lot of Toyotas, is the Toyo tool. It's set up and designed specifically for the Toyota cylinder heads. You can also buy a generic valve tool from a company, Lissel, but you'll have to grind this portion down a little bit to safely fit inside those buckets. So this is your removal tool for the keeper. It has a magnet inside there, and it also is your installer for your new valve seal. There we go. Magnets holding those parts nice and safe. Set that aside. Take your valve spring out. You can use needlenose pliers. These are nice, cool little tools. Then come down, grab the old seal, pull it up. If we look at our old seal, oh wow, there's no give in that seal at all. So it is kind of stretched out to the full amount that it could, and is no longer doing anything for us. That is just a completely shot valve seal. So kind of what we expected. You'll want to check down in the hole around the base where the seal goes and check for any leftover rubber. All right, so you have that little bit of leftover rubber that you need to remove with a pick. Just go in and do your best to break it free. Now, you could just slam the new seal over the top. It'll conform, it'll work, but it's not the right way to do it. And we like to try to do things as right as possible. Okay, so you take your new seal, start it on. Now, if you don't have the Toyo tool here, you can use a 10 or 11 millimeter socket, depending if you're using OEM or Ferrara seals, and you kind of push down, you'll feel it click, and then you get one more click where it drops, pushes, and that's fully seated. And now we have one new seal. You take your spring, set it back into place. That's your spring retainer, because it sits and retains, and then you have your valve keepers. Be very careful with them, as they do like to spring off and disappear very quickly. There's a wedge shaped to them, and the wedge, the narrow part goes down and the wider part is to the top. Those in position. Now with the Toyo tool, flip it over, and it has that retention with the little ball bearing, and that will help push it. So you set her up, push down square, come up slowly, and it's reinstalled. So we repeat that process 23 times, and it keeps you from pulling the cylinder head off. Now, one thing you do want to watch, and I've almost done it, is you do these 4, because that's the one that you currently have pressurized. Make sure you move your hose before jumping to the next cylinder, because nothing is keeping these valves up and they're going to drop real quick. We've got all of our gross, tired, rotten seals replaced. We're ready to put all of our lifter buckets back in their place. We've kept them in nice, neat order from where we took them out. So we'll get started with that. When you're putting these in, you need to be careful not to force them. They should be a nice, loose fit, just like that. If you're having to fight it too hard, your valve spring may be a little bit off center. So you can go in with a small screwdriver and just put a little bit of pressure, make sure it's even in the hole. Go through to this 24 times, and then we get to put the camshafts back in. Now, if you're installing brand new cams when you do your valve stem seals, that's also a good time to replace your valve springs because we've had everything apart. You would now get all these in, set your camshaft in, torque them down, and it'll come through and actually measure your tolerance so you can adjust your valves. The way you adjust valves on this style lifter is that this top here will lift off, and you have interchangeable pucks to drop inside. And we got them all set in. Again, it's just adjusting, fine-tuning the valve spring position. All those buckets dropped in, so we can come back, pick up your camshaft. Turn these around, and they kind of find one spot where they drop most of the way down. I went ahead and took and washed all of our cam caps. You have to make sure they go back where they came from, I6. So that means it's intake 6 position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So that'll land right there. And there's a little tiny arrow that also tells us which way points to the front of the motor. So we get all these cam caps back in position. And once we do that, we'll go through, torque the cam. We will get our cam seals in position, redress the timing belt, and then we're going to set the valve covers on for right now. We're not going to fully torque them. After washing them, we put them in earlier, that really rough paint kind of flaked off, and they look a little ugly, which was surprising that it managed to look worse than before. But so we're going to scuff those, paint it. I don't know what happened to the spark plug cover, but we'll get it cleaned up. Get it looking nice and appropriate. Now we got Earl's timing set, fully dressed out. If you're following along and trying it at home on your own 2JZ, you just saved yourself about $1,000. It probably feels pretty good. A few things we don't have yet. Our valve covers, again, we want to paint those. So we've got to dress that. We might paint our lower timing cover to match whatever we paint the front timing cover. I'm going to do a couple little things off camera because I'm getting antsy, want to see what is this engine going to look like in here. So we're going to get some stuff thrown together. I'm going to set up, and I might go ahead and cut out this rust so that way I can get a little better idea of how we're going to do that exhaust and prep up for a quick metal run, so that way we can make motor mounts and patch all this rust out here really soon. All right, guys, you ready to see Earl? Did a lot of things off camera, just a little tinkering to kind of put them together so we can start to visualize just how crazy this 2JZ is going to be sitting forward and just monstrous. Kind of wanted to work on that exhaust a little bit and start to see how it's going to fall. So, all right, what do you guys think? Actually, I kind of like the real rowdy, dirty look of the valve covers. Just trashy, but hiding a lot of power. We've got it cleared so we can actually service and remove the engine. Timing belt all done. Turbo sitting there, intake manifold. I think we may change this out to one that sits a little bit lower, or we'll cut the traction control and actually put the coupler there so we can fit it down. But let's come down low. I mean, that's gonna look pretty stinking awesome. And then cut some of that rust out. I'm gonna have to extend this downpipe a little bit. I guess you can call it a side pipe. So that way we can clear the tower and meet up with this pipe. So we were talking we may scallop a little bit, but I kind of like it just shot out like that, and we're gonna have that real cool copper, aluminized copper on our fender there to cover it. You imagine just seeing this thing going down the road. We can be stupid, hit some anti-lag, spit some fireballs, something dumb. That's what I want to do. So on the short list to do, next time around we're going to get the motor mounts made so it has the final firm resting place, try to get that exhaust done up, get our rust fixed, and then we're going to start working on our cooling. I think I found a radiator that I'm happy with that we're going to get ordered in. We got the big intercooler to go in it. Obviously we'll hang the bumpers back on for that, but Earl's getting kind of nasty. That's going to do it for today. Thank you for hanging out with me in the shop. I'm Jared, reminding you to always make questionable choices and to double check your work. Goodbye.